So here we are, and we're having a chat today with Devon Witter. He's from Community Vision Fraud Watch. Fraud is something, Devon, it actually is in all our lives, and we maybe not even realise that.
Yeah, definitely. So the Fraud Watch project has been set up to be able to support people with fraud. We operate in 3 strands. So we've got fraud and cyber awareness. So we'll go out and deliver presentations in the community to make people more aware of fraud and cybercrime. We also encourage people to report fraud and provide alerts about what's happening. So when Humberside Police send us statistics and latest stats, we will be able to publish those to the community. We also provide support with people reporting fraud because we want to make sure that they're getting that message out there, but also getting support for themselves. And then we make referrals as well to victim support who need it.
You know, when people hear about fraud, I think everybody thinks it's a vulnerable person who's subject to fraud. They don't think it could be them, their friends or their family, do they?
Yeah, so absolutely anybody can be a victim of fraud, no matter what background they're from or who they are, how old they are. Anybody can be a victim. And when we talk about vulnerability with somebody, we usually say that actually it might be that generally as a person they are vulnerable, or it might just be in that split second they're not feeling very well, and really the sort of they might not feel very well, or they're a little bit stressed, or they might not be thinking straight, and they can be a victim at that moment because they might just respond to something without thinking.
I think the other thing as well when you talk about fraud is people can be, and they shouldn't be, but maybe embarrassed that they haven't spotted it, because we're all, generally speaking, we all think we know everything, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. So we're asking people to report fraud. Even if they do feel embarrassed, they might think, oh, I've done something silly. You haven't. These fraudsters are really clever. They act quickly and they're putting pressure on you to make you respond. So we're wanting people to report it, and there are agencies out there that'll listen.
Now, how can we do that then? Because, again, this is one of these kind of almost life lessons, I think, sometimes. You need to know this kind of stuff now, even though you haven't maybe been a subject of fraud activity, because you need to know what to do when you realise that maybe something's going on.
Definitely. So there's some really quick options that you can use. So if you've received a suspicious phone call or a suspicious text message, you can text the number to 7726. Now, I'm told on an old style phone that it spells spam, but 7726, forward the text message on or text the phone number that called you, and Ofcom will get that number passed on to the mobile provider, the National Cybersecurity Centre and Action Fraud, to be able to delete that number out of circulation. And if you've received a suspicious email, it's really easy. All you need to do is forward the email on to report@phishing.gov.uk, forward it on, and both systems, whichever one you use, will reply back to you to confirm they've actually received that report.
Not just emails, not just phone calls, though, of course. There's lots of different other aspects and avenues for fraud, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely. So if you've been a victim of fraud that don't fit into any of those 3 categories, what we're really encouraging in the Humberside Police Force area is that you ring 101, listen to the options that you're given, and we will be able to get a volunteer to report fraud for you. Now, we are asking people that you can report to Action Fraud online as well. However, we're asking people in the Humberside Police Force area directly to come to 101 so that we can make sure that we're giving you that support as soon as possible.
And also, of course, by going to 101, it also means that locally we've got a very good finger on the pulse of how much fraud is going on in our part of the world.
Definitely. So Action Fraud as well don't investigate fraud. What happens is they take the report, they'll then collect the information and pass it on to the local force for where the suspect's based and where the victim's based. So really, we're asking you, contact Humberside Police first, ring 101, speak to one of our Fraud Watch volunteers, and we will make sure that you're getting that support a lot quicker.
You've mentioned being aware and being alert to suspicious phone calls, suspicious emails, but of course you can get suspicious texts as well.
Yes, definitely. So suspicious text messages, they're happening all the time. It might be somebody pretending to be your bank, or it could be somebody saying that you've got a parcel from Royal Mail that's been delivered and you haven't. Usually they're always going to have a link in them. We call that smishing, so it's a text message version of phishing. And basically it's a text message with a link in, or they're asking you to respond.
Now, fraud encompasses everything, doesn't it? And there are various types of fraud, Devon, aren't there?
Yes, definitely. So within our presentations, we cover the 4 main types of fraud. And the reason is because as well as there being 4 types of fraud, they're also the main methods that fraudsters use. So they're going to do postal fraud. So sending you letters in the post. Could be a letter telling you that you've won the Australian lottery, for example. Telephone fraud, somebody calling you and asking for information, asking for money, asking for a payment. It could be doorstep fraud, which is one of the more difficult ones for people to deal with. Somebody knocking on your door telling you that your bush needs cutting or your guttering needs cleaning. Or it could be online fraud, so emails, websites, on social media, it could be any of those. These are the 4 main methods that fraudsters use, though, to steal your money or your information.
I think the worrying thing, of course, is that a lot of these frauds, and when you get a letter, or you go online, you get an email, or there's a website that you're asked to go and have a look at, or whatever. They look like the proper thing, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And these fraudsters are really clever. And as well, when it's online, you're talking to people that know how to manipulate technology as well. And so they really are clever. They're copy and pasting genuine letters and making it fit for their purposes.
Would you ever say that people should engage with a fraudster if they actually get a phone call? You often see in drama series, I think, how clever people are, or comedy shows, how clever they are when they're, playing along with the fraudster and whatever. Is that something that we should do?
We're not going to encourage that, just because actually the first time, especially with telephone fraudsters, we don't know what their motive is. They might not be asking straight away for money or information. They may just have a general conversation with you, and without realising it, you're telling them about you. Unless you're having fun and games with them, we won't really encourage that you drag it out with them.
You mentioned the word phishing, and phishing not with an F, but phishing with a PH. A wonderful term that I don't think probably anybody really understands. Maybe you can.
Yes, definitely. So phishing is normally an email that's going to ask you to click a link or download an attachment, and it's usually from somebody that you may or may not know. That could impersonate an organisation as well, like your bank. But basically, it's going to have a link in it potentially. It'll take you to a website, and they'll either ask you to log in or to download a document. That document's going to contain some malware or spyware, so basically some dodgy software. Or if they're asking you to log into a website, what they're going to do is what they call harvest your data. So they're going to collect your login details. What might happen is you might get a link from your bank on an email, supposedly. They'll ask you to click that link and you'll log into that website. Potentially what could happen is it'll say, oh no, there's an error, and then redirect you to your genuine bank website, so you won't know. If that ever happens, ask your bank to change your password for the online account.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to do all that you've said when you talk about dealing with banks, but now it's harder than ever to actually be able to stand in front of somebody at a bank and say, I need some help directly. It's all online. It's on these chat bots. It's all that kind of thing. It doesn't really necessarily help in the war against fraud, does it?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, contacting your bank, so if you use the 159 service, you can call 159 if you've been a victim of fraud, and that'll ask you which bank you're with, and then you select the option of the bank and they will transfer you through to the fraud department within the bank. That is one of the quicker ways. We do encourage people as well to use the number on the back of their card, but again, if you can't remember it, you can't find your card, call 159 and they'll put you through at the bank.
We've used the word phishing. We're now going to learn 2 new words, which I've never heard before. Smishing and vishing. So what's smishing?
So in the cyber world, we just like to make words up. But smishing is a text message version of phishing. So as I've mentioned, it'll be a link in a text message. They'll ask you to click on it. There's an example as well. So it says, and one of them might be, it says, your statement's ready for you to view online. Go to a web address to view and manage your account. Basically, it's the fraudster asking you to log in, but on a phone instead. We've also got vishing, which is voice solicitation. This is where the fraudster may ring you, and it may either be an automated call or it may be a genuine person who's asking you to say, for example, your payment's not gone through, I need your account password, I need you to pay me straight away, or something like that, or your credit card details expired, can I have your up-to-date ones? So they're going to use voice solicitation instead.
Is the key phrase to be ever mindful of and watchful for when if you ever hear the phrase, I need your password, avoid like the plague, put the phone down.
Definitely. So there's not many instances where you need to reveal a password over the phone. Again, telephone banking, you might have a telephone banking password. That's the only banking password that you should be giving over the phone. But they won't ask you for the full password. Generally, they'll ask you for a letter or number from it to confirm who you are. But really, golden rule is don't ever give your password out. Especially with smishing, vishing and phishing, these people, they're always trying to get your money, your information, your login details or personal data about you. There's nothing that you're going to gain out of responding to these people.
We are learning so many new words. These are vital words we need to be aware of, though, in the fight against fraud. Another word, again, spoofing.
Yes, so criminals use a technique called spoofing to make it look like you've been contacted by a trusted organisation. So again, if we use the bank, for example, it might be that you've had a genuine text message from your bank that says this is a fraud alert from your bank, we need to verify recent transactions, and it'll tell you shortly we're going to send you a text message from a certain number and ask you how to respond. That could be a genuine message, but again, we know that fraudsters are impersonating the real things as well. But in the same text message thread, that could be followed by an example that says, we've detected unusual activity on your account. Click this link to view and manage your account online. The fraudsters have got some special technology that allows them to impersonate the phone number that the bank is using, and it'll appear in the same genuine text message thread. So we're telling people, just ignore any text messages that you get from organisations and contact them using a number that you know and trust elsewhere.
How on earth, in this modern world, do you know whether or not the real bank is contacting you or it's a fraudster? How do you know?
So chances are your real bank won't contact you over the phone. They're probably going to send you an email. Potentially they'll send you a letter in the post, which is normally the favoured approach. However, we always say, if you're ever unsure, don't use the contact details in the method that they've given you. Find the number that you know and trust or call 159 and ask to speak to somebody at your bank. Or if you can, visit a local branch and speak to a real person.
I think the big message here is a number that, again, I was not aware of. 159. That's the number we need to get out there.
Definitely. So especially if you're a victim of any fraud that involves your bank, use 159. You can contact 159 and they will put you through to your genuine bank's number.
So we're talking about fraud today, and the fact that anyone can be a victim of fraud. In fact, you may have been a victim of fraud even now and not even realise it. But it's an astonishing figure that in our part of the world, in Humberside, in the year 2019 to 2020, this is an amazing amount of money, Devon.
Definitely. So £13.8 million was stolen from 7,471 victims in the Humberside Police Force area alone in that year. And at the time that figure came out, we knew that only 5% of people had reported they'd been a victim as well. So we know, in reality, that number is a lot higher. Thankfully now, the figure is that 7% of people are reporting that they've been a victim. But still, we really are encouraging that through the Fraud Watch project, through the Say No to Fraud campaign, and through the support of Humberside Police and the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, we can turn that figure to none in 5 people are affected.
But 7% of people are reporting it, but likely 40% of people have been affected by it.
Definitely. So there's a lot more people that have been affected by fraud. So the more people that report it, the bigger picture we can get about what's happening and the more that can be done in the future.
So what kind of people get affected by fraud? I know we've talked very generally that anybody can. Are there any particular types of people who could be affected?
So, as we've mentioned, absolutely anybody could be affected. It might be that they've got a health issue or they may suffer from dementia. It may be, as we've discussed, that they're vulnerable in some way, and that could be vulnerable in that split second, or it could be generally as a person they're vulnerable. It might be that that person feels socially isolated. It could be that they're feeling lonely as well. It might well be, though, that the fraudsters are able to put pressure on that person and make them respond. They may make them feel valued and give them a sense of purpose. Especially with romance fraud, we see that the person might not even ask for any money or information. They just talk to them for a long period of time and make them feel loved. It could be that they've been targeted by criminals or not. And it could also be that actually, generally as a person, they trust people easily, which is what we're trying to tell people to be more aware of who they're talking to now.
Another aspect which has only just struck me, though, is that you've got the people who know they're fraudsters and they're actually doing it and they enjoy doing it, and their goal in life is to get as much out of somebody as they possibly can. Are there people, though, who are actually fraudsters and don't realise they are?
Potentially. I mean, it pays to be involved in fraud. We also know that 50% of all crimes are fraud and cyber related as well, because it's easier. All we need is that fraudster only needs one person to respond and pay them £100, and that could be a day's wages for them. So it really pays to be involved as a fraudster.
We need some help. We need some tips, don't we?
Definitely. So we always push the Take 5 campaign materials. So the first one is never disclose your security details. And I know that that's easier said than done. So you might have all seen, if you're on Facebook, the adverts that say, tell us your first pet's name, your favourite colour and the place that you grew up, and we'll tell you your robot name. Actually, that could be potential security details. My favourite one, it's the one where it says, enter the 16 digits across the front of your card, the expiry date and the 3 on the back, and the fraudster will tell you your lucky number. We always tell people as well, the second tip is, don't assume that everyone's genuine. Just because a police officer turns up at your door in uniform doesn't mean that they could be a genuine police officer. We're encouraging people, take the collar number, ring 101 and verify who they are, and then open the door again and speak to them if it turns out they're genuine. Don't be rushed into making a decision. It's your money and your information that's going to be taken, so it's okay to take your time. They may be telling you it's a real good offer and it won't be here tomorrow. Start asking questions why that is. Listen to your instincts as well, because if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And then the last one is, if you follow all those, stay in control of that situation. It's okay to shut the door on someone. It's okay to put the letter in the bin. And it's okay to put the phone down or delete the email. It's your money and your information that you're giving away.
I wonder how many people, when I mention this, will say, actually, that's me. We're encouraged to have passwords, aren't we? And also, we've got so much stuff online, haven't we, now? But how many people maybe have just the one password they use on everything, every account they use and that kind of thing?
Yes.
And how wise is that?
Definitely. So often we've seen lists every year that get released of which passwords have been more popular. Password 123, admin. These are all default passwords. So we tell people, never use a default password. There's a website out there called howsecureismypassword.net. You can go on that website, put your password in or something similar to one that you're going to use, and it'll tell you how long it'll take for a computer to crack it. What we're recommending is that you use 3 or 4 random word passwords. The National Cyber Security Centre recommends that you use 3 random word passwords. Humberside, we like to be one better and tell you to use 4 anyway. But 4 random words. It could be 4 random words that are personal to you, and then a different password for every website is what we're encouraging. If you're going to struggle to remember them, have a little password book. Don't write the password down though. Write a number 1 and the website, and use the same 4 random words, but change the number at the end of the password that you use. In your password book, you've got a website, so it could be number 1 is Amazon. You know that you fill random words and then it ends in number 1, and that's Amazon website's password. Or pay for a password manager, and that's a software that will create your passwords for you. It'll store them safely, but then you just need to remember the password to your email and the password to your password manager, so 2 passwords to remember. If a fraudster wanted to change all your passwords, the only password they need is the password to your email, and they can reset the rest of them. So always make sure that, if anything, your password to your email account is the most secure.
What you've said is absolutely right, and everybody should do it. But will people do it? They won't, will they?
If we make it easy enough for people, hopefully you'll follow the advice. I mean, we've always seen people have written the passwords down and put it on a post-it note, stuck it under the desk or in a drawer somewhere. Ideally, don't write your passwords down, but we know that you may need to. But always just remember, the only password that you shouldn't really write down is the one to your email, because a fraudster can reset everything else from that.
I think one of the most frightening sights is when people go and collect their pensions and you see somebody and they have to tap their numbers in and they get a piece of paper out. You don't know who stood behind you, do you?
No, that's it, exactly. And sometimes we've seen it where people have got credit card holders in their phone case, and within that they've also got the PIN numbers attached to the bank card. Again, your bank advises you not to do that, and we're advising you don't write your passwords down.
Another question that maybe we need to ask ourselves when it's in the subject of fraud is, have I been pawned?
So there's a website out there called Have I Been Pawned, and that's PWNED. You can go on that website, put your email address in there, or put your phone number in, and it'll do a search of the dark web to see whether your information's been breached. One example is we've put Steve at cybercop.police.uk on that website, and the return of that was that actually Steve's details had been breached as a result of a data breach by LinkedIn in May 2016. So we're really encouraging people to check whether the data's been breached. It's a free website that you can put your details in, your email or your phone number, and it'll do a search to see whether your data comes up. So it's Have I Been Pawned and PWNED.
There are a number of agencies who are supporting this campaign, aren't there? That, it's important that people listen to this, take on board. There's a lot to take on board, though, Dan.
Definitely. And I mean, one of the things that we find as well is when we're supporting victims is that they tell us that, they don't feel listened to, or there's nobody out there that they can turn to. But the biggest message that we want to promote is that there's loads of organisations out there that are supporting you. So there's ourselves at the Fraud Watch Project, and we're really embedded within Humberside Police as well to make sure that victims are getting the best level of service. There's also the Take 5 campaign, who a lot of financial institutions and banks buy into to make sure that they're giving out the correct advice. There's also National Trading Standards Scams Team and the Friends Against Scams initiative. There's the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, who run Action Fraud as well. Our whole campaign is funded by the Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner's Office as well. But other than that, you can also get information, and people working in the background is the National Crime Agency, the National Cybersecurity Centre that's part of GCHQ, and in our area, the Yorkshire and Humber Regional Organised Crime Unit and the Yorkshire and Humber Regional Organised Cybercrime Unit as well. And you can also get information from GetSafe Online, report crime to Crime Stoppers, and if you really need support, contact Victim Support or ourselves at Fraud Watch, who can make a referral for you as well.
So if I'm a victim of fraud, or I suspect I am, what do I do?
If you suspect you're a victim of fraud in the first instance, contact 101 or call the Fraud Watch Project on 01482 871 077 and press the option for Fraud Watch. But really, if you've been a victim, contact Humberside Police on 101 and report it.